your pretty feet up on my dash. No need to go.
Hi, so I'm Charmaine and welcome to my channel, Char and Mar. We have already done Mar's story. This channel we're hoping will be more along a health and wellness channel, how to go from sickness to health. And so if you've watched our first few videos, you will have seen that Mar comes from a breast cancer background, and we just recently posted a video of whether she's in remission or not. So if you haven't seen it yet, hop on over there and watch that one. It's a pretty good one. And I've yet to kind of tell my story, first because it's so lengthy and I've seen so many different doctors and had so many different diagnoses that I really don't even know where to start. So I'm just going to keep talking. If you're interested in my story, then keep watching. So I guess my story started back in and around 2000 and the end of 2015 going into 2016, if I have my dates correct. Anyways, at that time, well, before that time, I didn't know was anything related to what I'm going through now, but I had this like sudden onset TMJ, which is like your temporal mandibular joints in your jaw, and my jaw would start locking up. And I was at work one day. It was just before lunch. Actually, I'd woken up in the middle of the night and I couldn't open my mouth. Like I couldn't even stick a finger in. And I started to have a little bit of a panic attack because of it, but decided, you know, if I got to work and maybe with the routines of work, I would release the tension and I would be okay. But by lunchtime, I still couldn't open my jaw, and I started to freak out, like, how am I going to eat? Everybody was cooking and it smelled so amazing, which is really crazy because what they were cooking was hot dogs, and I'm a vegan now. Like, hot dogs are like on the bottom end of the totem pole for any kind of nutrition. Just saying. So anyways, I had already had an appointment with a specialist coming up for my jaw locking. So I contacted them and said, like, my jaw is locked right now. It's been locked since 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm really freaking out. So they asked me to come in. Long story short, I went in. He couldn't even put gloves on to kind of maneuver around in there. So he had to like really wash his hands, and then just barehandedly tried to get his fingers in to kind of loosen up, which didn't work. And I should have grabbed it, but maybe on the next video I'll show you. He had to make me like this mold to put in to kind of take the pressure off the back of my teeth. It's almost like a mouth guard, but it really looks like, if you remember those like wax candies back in the day that you would like literally as a big hunk of wax and you chew and suck out all the liquid. It looked like that. Like, it doesn't even resemble anything that looks like a mouth guard because he couldn't get his fingers in there. And then shortly after that, I started having these like panic attacks. Like, they would come out of nowhere. I'd literally get up and like grab my neck and pace my house. And if my mom was over, she'd be like, I don't know what to do. And I'd be like, I know it's in my head. It's just in my head. Just talk to me. And then I started having swallowing issues. Literally, I would be choking on my food. And I'm going to take you for a little walk because my little sheep who wants to go to the bathroom. Come on, Belle. And anyways, I started choking on my food. It didn't matter what I was eating. I would just start. It was almost like during the swallowing process when as soon as I'd start to swallow, it felt like I would be getting stuck here. And I never really thought anything of it, nor did I think any of these symptoms were all interrelated or could be. I never even thought that. And I literally dealt with this choking for like 2 years. It was so bad that I would have to tell my coworkers during meal times, if I get up during eating and run off, exactly what you're not supposed to do. Of course, we all do it. Come and find me, because I am choking and I'm doing exactly what you shouldn't be doing, which is going off and hiding. So, anyways, I ended up choking really bad one day. I was at home here with my son, and I freaked right out. It was stuck. I was literally sticking my fingers in my mouth to try and pull out whatever, and my heart was racing. And shortly after, I told one of my girlfriends, and she's like, listen, Char, you seriously need to go to a doctor for that. So long story short, I did. I went to a doctor. They ended up sending me or referring me to CCAC, which a lady had to come out to my house. I didn't want her to, and she'd watch me eat. And we deal with this at my place of work, like mealtime management plans. So I'm like, why do you have to come out here? I know I have some type of dysphasia. So she said, we can't run any testing unless this is done first. So I have to come out. Anyway, she came out. I don't know. I think I ate a cookie or something like that. It was fine. And she basically told me I had moderate dysphagia. And so I should have some meal management, which I was like, hell to the no. Nope, not doing it. I already knew what I needed to do when I was eating to ensure I was okay, so I always had to have a drink, which ironically is one of the things they tell you not to do, not to drink while you're eating. But for me, I always had to have a drink. It's almost like when it would kind of get stuck there, I could take a drink and it would push it all the way down. So anyways, I ended up seeing a gastroenterologist, who then referred me for a video fluoroscopy. So that was an appointment at the hospital where I literally was put into a gown. They gave me different consistencies of food. So like pudding, which would have been the consistency of a puree, a banana in little pieces, which would have been like soft minced basically, and then like an arrowroot cookie. But on top of each of those, they had barium powder. So what they would want me to do is to put it in my mouth, chew it, and swallow it, and they would x-ray it going all the way down. So naturally, they start with the puree consistency, which would have been the pudding. So I take a bite, I'm swallowing, they're x-raying. She tells me to swallow again. Then she tells me to take a drink. They had a little styrofoam cup of water in there. And Bella, what are you doing? Come here. Sorry, my dog was making some weird noises. And she's going for surgery on Sunday. I've had her for 13 years. Anyways, that's besides the point. So there's two technicians in there, one who was actually watching me eat and then guiding the other one to take the images. So she kept saying to the other lady, okay, take another pick. Okay, take another pick. And then she looked at me and said, Charmaine, take another drink. Take another drink. And this went on, it seemed like forever. And she's like, Charmaine, you don't feel that? And I go, right here? And she's like, no, right here. And I said, no, I never feel it there. I always feel it here. And she turns around the screen and she says, look, we're at 2 minutes and you have puree stuck in your esophagus. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, look it right here. And all the drinking I was taking was not moving it down. And I was like, so what does that mean? And she's like, you have an esophageal blockage. And I was like, what? And I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit relieved. Not that I wanted an esophageal blockage, but like this had been going on for so long that it was almost validating I'm not crazy. There is something going on. So I was then referred back to the gastroenterologist who was putting me in for a endoscopy. So that was kind of funny because I'm super claustrophobic, and if I get too much in my head, I'll like freak myself out. So is the sedated or general anesthesia endoscopy. So they have you lying in a bed, and then they put this block in your mouth and strap it around your head. I guess it's so that they can put the tube and camera down without your teeth clenching once you go to sleep. And they put it in, and I started freaking out. And literally, like, one doctor has my arm over here putting an IV in, and this one I'm kind of lying on, and I popped the square out, and they're like, no, honey, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, then hurry up and put me to sleep. So anyways, I had that done, and it came back that there was no blockage, which is weird because, I mean, the x-ray showed that I actually had pudding sitting right there. And so he diagnosed me with severe GERD, gastroesophagus reflux disease, which I really thought was funny because I never got heartburn. You know, I didn't have, like, you know, where you burp and it comes up in your mouth. I mean, occasionally, yeah, I think everybody gets that, but nothing that I would consider severe GERD. So, of course, you know, they want to dole out some prescriptions, and I'll get to why I was like, not going to happen. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be band-aided with prescription medication. There's got to be something, like, that I could do different. So that's kind of where the beginning of my story started. Then I guess it was in 2000, maybe it was 2015. No, maybe 2016. No, 15. Either way, it was January, and I started noticing that I was getting these lower abdominal pains, kind of like where your ovaries are. And they were mild, but they were noticeable. And so, you know, I'd notice it periodically throughout the day, and then it started to becoming like more frequent. And then in February, so my brother had just passed 6 months prior, and my oldest brother, I'm the youngest in a sibling of 4, and he had liver cancer, and at the time we didn't know that, but he needed a liver transplant, and I offered to be his live donor. I was tested and found that we were a perfect match, but he didn't make it. He was at the transplant hospital. The transplant team came in to talk to me. It was a Friday. They were going to wake him up on the Monday because he was in, like, unconscious state, and he died 9 days later. So I'm telling you that because I've heard a lot of people say that I was under a lot of stress, but if you really get to know me, I am very good at finding the silver lining in any situation. And I felt like I really went through that situation well. I'll tell that story another time because it's a very interesting story on another vlog. However, 6 months later after his passing, my uncle and godfather, so my mom's older brother, who lived out in Calgary, Alberta, contacted the nurses in the hospital that he was in, contacted one of my other uncles, who contacted me and said that he was asking for me. So I flew out there and ended up getting 5 days with him before he passed. And while I was out there in February, I had noticed those lower abdominal pains coming back. So I'd mentioned it to my aunt and said, you know, I had this last month. And we didn't think anything of it. You know, I'd just rest when it would happen. And then I ended up that was in February. So in March, I missed a menstrual cycle. It's the first I had ever missed. I started my menstrual cycle at 13 and was pretty much regular the whole time. So it was a little bit concerning, but I knew it wasn't like a pregnancy related thing or anything like that. I thought maybe it was attributed to this pain I was having in my ovaries. And in April, it still hadn't come, and the aunt I had told about these abdominal pains said, like, Char, you really need to go to the doctor and get it checked out. So I did. I went to the doctors and they ran some blood work. In that time, I can't tell you how many ultrasounds I had, and it would come back, I had an ovarian cyst. Once it was I had a fibroid. Nothing ever definitive came back, and it seemed like no matter how many times I had the test, the doctors didn't seem too concerned. I was concerned because this is my body and I felt like it was drastically changing. And in fact, I can remember one morning coming downstairs and I literally felt like I'd gained 15 pounds overnight. I'm not even exaggerating that. Like my belly was distended, I was bloated, I still hadn't had a period. My hormones felt like they were way off. However, at the time I didn't know that. I just knew I didn't feel like myself and I was freaking out. I wasn't sleeping. And I went back to my doctor's and she says, well, it looks like maybe you're entering menopause, like so nonchalantly. And I'm thinking, okay, like what does that mean? Like this would be a stage that somebody in their 50s would be going into. And I was certainly nowhere near 50. So, excuse me, I don't know what I did after that. I know that my hormones continued to progressively get worse. And every doctor I would see, so then I was referred to a gynecologist, and he did a PAP, I guess, and another ultrasound, and of course it was just coming back, it's an ovarian cyst, but nobody was really going into any kind of detail about menopause, and it was something I needed to know. When I look back now, I'm really kind of angry, because maybe to the average person or to the medical field, because they see it all the time, it's just it's minor, but to me this was my life. Like when your hormones drop off, I mean they regulate everything in your body. You literally feel like you're going crazy, and I felt like the best parts of me were slipping away. And I had nobody, there's not a single person I know, even yet today, in my age group, that could understand what I was going through. So, I was having these hot flashes and night sweats. I mean, night sweats literally like where you wake up in the middle of the night and it's like you just jumped out of a swimming pool. And it's scary because you're like, what the hell is going on with my body? So the gynecologist decided that we were going to do a surgery. He felt like perhaps I needed a right-sided oophorectomy, which would be where they remove my right ovary, which was the ovary that continued to pain me and continued to show up with cysts. So that surgery was January 2017, and I was put to sleep for it. It was just a day surgery. However, it wasn't day surgery. They told me like I couldn't eat since midnight the night before. I had to be in by, I think it was 9 in the morning, and my surgery was scheduled for 12. And I sat there in a hospital gown, in socks, with an IV in, literally till 9 p.m. at night. They had a couple of emergencies, and then they were going to cancel my surgery and reschedule it. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I've already sent in all the paperwork for unemployment, like medical leave while I'm off recovering. And what, I'm supposed to call back my employer and say, I didn't have the surgery last night, I'm coming back? Like, no. So one of the anesthesiologists came out to the doctor. They talked for a minute. And they both sat down with me and said, listen, if you don't mind waiting another 30 minutes, we'll do the surgery. So I was like, yeah, like I've gone through this long enough. I need you to tell me like what is going on, like to look inside there. So anyways, I ended up waking up, and from surgery, with my ovary intact. So they didn't have to remove it. They did remove a couple of cysts. My ovary was stuck to my abdominal wall, and there was no sign of a fibroid. However, I did have endometriosis, which was super shocking to me because I really had an uneventful menstrual cycle. The minor cramps here or there, but nothing really that would warrant acknowledging that there could possibly be any endometriosis. So he removed that, unstuck my ovary, removed the cyst, and did a D&C basically. A little clean and sweep, I guess you could say. So I seem to have recovered fine. However, my birthday's in January, and on my actual birthday I had an incision infection and ended up in Emerge on IV medications also. However, by this time January, I had gone now 10 months without a menstrual cycle. It's like one day I woke up, I never got my period, and I'm 10 months and still never got it. And nobody could tell me why. Not nobody. Like, I did so much researching, and by February now, almost a year later, so I'm heading into 11 months without a menstrual cycle, I feel like I am seriously going cray-cray. My moods are all over the place. I have extreme insomnia. I cannot sleep. I'm hot flushing like crazy. Didn't matter if I was sitting under a fan. It was just horrible. I was having night sweats. I was having a weight gain. It seemed like no matter what type of food I'd eat, I'd literally blow up. Like, my belly would come right out. And like I'd look pregnant or something. It was just really crazy, and I still don't even know how to fully articulate how I felt, because unless you've gone through it, you can't. I feel like you can't really put it into words, but I really felt crummy. Like, I just didn't feel good. It didn't matter what I did. Like, I've always been able to, if I gained 5 pounds, I could bet you I'd lose 5 pounds in 10 days or quicker than you, and I'd win that bet every time. But I was at a place right now where, like, I couldn't even drop a pound, and I'm a small frame. I'm literally 5'1.5". I round up, so we're gonna say. So I feel like I got a hair on my face. 5'2", and 5 pounds is noticeable, and I was like 15 pounds overweight, which was crazy for me. So by February, March, so I was just hitting, you're considered a postmenopausal woman, so the stage that a 54-year-old woman would be entering, when you've gone one consecutive year without a menstrual cycle. And in March of 2017, I was hitting that 1 year. And, of course, I went to Google. That's what we all do. And, they talked about when you go into early menopause and premature ovarian failure. Sorry, I left that out. That's after my surgery. The gynecologist said, you're in premature ovarian failure heading into menopause. When you do that, you're at higher risk for osteoporosis and stroke and all kinds of things, really. And I know, as vain as this sounds, I was not ready to be rushed into old age. And that's exactly how I felt about it. Like, oh my God, like, your ovaries are your lady parts. Like, it's your whole endocrine system, which is responsible for so much. And I was like, I'm not ready to be an old lady yet. Like, I want to gradually get there like everybody else does. And does this mean, I'm going to lose the elasticity in my skin? In fact, before I knew any of this, I had noticed, I keep looking over there because there is like the jumboest dinosaur of a spider on the outside of my window. I mean, this thing is freaking massive. And anybody who knows me knows I'm afraid of bugs. But he's like on this web and it keeps blowing. Anyways, I just never got any resolve, and nobody would tell me how to fix it. And I was willing to put in the work. Like, you'll see watching our vlogs from here on out. I'm not above putting in hard work, but nobody would give me direction. I remember going to my family doctor, and this was just after my surgery, so between February and March, and I was crying. And she's never seen me cry because I'm pretty strong, but I was crying, and I said, like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And she wanted to write me a prescription for antidepressants. And I remember thinking, are you kidding me? Like, I'm telling you right now that I know my whole situation is a hormonal situation, and I need you just to tell me what to do so that I can fix it. Like, why is nobody even trying to help me get my menstrual cycle back? Why is everybody but me okay that this is happening? I mean, you're all telling me it's premature ovarian failure, I'm in early menopause, but you're not trying to help me reverse that or figure out what was the root cause. I think I've pretty much figured out what that root cause was now, but I'll get to that later. And I wouldn't take the prescriptions. At the same time that this was happening, I had pretty much turned to chemical-free living, which is a whole other topic that I can talk to you about. But I had done a lot of research into the products that we bring into our home. Actually, I just posted a video the other day about chemical facts, the stuff that's in our hygiene products and shampoos and lotions and makeup and cleaning supplies. Anyways, nobody would help me. I just seemed to be continuously offered prescriptions. And to me, I'm not judging anybody that needs that. And I do think that there is a place for Western medicine. But I think that prescriptions are so easily and frequently doled out that they become more of a Band-Aid. And what I was interested in doing was finding out why this happened to me so that I could correct it. And nobody would tell me. And I literally ran down a million rabbit holes. So I sought out a naturopath, and I had never been to a naturopathic doctor before. I didn't know how you gauge who's good, who's not, what to look for, even what to expect when you went to one. So anyways, I found a naturopath. She gave me some like holistic supplements. One of them was chase tree. I guess it helps with like hot flushing and that. But again, there was no assistance in helping me bring back my menstrual cycles. And nobody ever even said, like, Charmaine, you're wasting your time because they're not coming back. And I don't know that I would have believed them anyway. So I was becoming so desperate. I spent 7 months in pain. Like, along with that, I would have these like upper thigh pains, just like burning. I noticed swelling on my upper thighs as well. And I'd go to work and then come home and literally spent 7 months in bed, like immobile, just in pain, not feeling good. I hadn't been sleeping, so of course I was exhausted. I went to emergency a couple of times, and again, like, it was, it's your ovaries, but it was just, I was always passed off. So I thought, I have to do something. And Mar told me of a place close to her that does like organic cold pressed juices, and that perhaps I should do a detox. So I reached out to them. found out a little bit of information and thought, you know what, I'm going to do it. So I did a 3-day juice cleanse slash detox. So you pay them, they make you, I think it was 18 bottles, and then they give you a set time for when to drink each one. And every organic cold pressed juice helps your body eliminate toxins from different organs, right? So there's like beet ones and carrots and turmeric and ginger and celery and all that stuff. And I started to feel really good by mid 3rd day. And I thought like the best I had felt in almost a year. And by the time I was nearing the end of my cleanse, I thought like there is no way I can go back to traditionally eating what I ate before. So what I left out was I had just come off, before all of these symptoms, I'd just come off a 2-year high protein diet, like literally a meat diet. I ate meat for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks. I literally, I know this is so stupid and I'm kind of embarrassed to even share it, but I'm transparent, so I'm going to. I maybe ate a piece of fruit twice in those 2 years. It was literally a high protein diet, low carbs. So I ate less than 45 carbs a day. Carbs were not considered carbs in things like nuts and seeds. Carbs would have been like your breads, your grains, your rices. So I ate like 45 grams or less, and I packed in as much protein in meat as I could. And I really feel that doing that for 2 years, I mean, meat is just loaded with hormones, antibiotics and hormones that are not meant. I mean, the antibiotics given to a cow would be very different than the antibiotics that would be prescribed for a human, yet they seep into the fat and muscle and meaty parts of those animals, and then we're eating that, and our bodies don't know how to process through it. Same with the chemicals. I'm going to post, I've already done a live video where I threw out all of my hygiene products, all of my cleaning products, I think 2 years ago, and I'll edit it and share it on YouTube so that you guys can see. But I really do feel that is what led me to being a postmenopausal woman. And so I'm sure you guys are all wondering right now if I was able to get my periods back, and I'm sadly saying no, I haven't. However, after my juice and cleanse, when I decided, I can't go back to traditionally eating like I was. How could I do these organic, like flood my body with all of this plant-based eating and feel good in 3 days, where I've been begging people to help me for over a year, and then go back to eating the same foods? So I literally went vegan overnight, and I honor that. I'm grateful for my strength in doing that. It's not traditionally anything I was used to. In fact, I grew up as a kid hating vegetables, and now they're the main staple in my everyday diet. I've not eaten a piece of meat, dairy, cheese, any animal product in over a year and a half. And I felt great. Like, I started to drop weight. I started to have less inflammation. And there was a whole trial and error with going vegan too, because, I think a misconception when you first go vegan is like, oh, it's vegan, I can eat it, it's healthier. But that's not the case. You can be a very unhealthy vegan. Oreos are vegan and Skittles are vegan, and those foods are not going to flood your body with nutrients and help heal. So, and I made that mistake. I ate those things. I thought, well, they don't have an animal product in it, so they're vegan, they're good. And I can't buy Oreos because I'll eat the whole damn sleeve. So, no, I've not been able to bring back my menstrual cycle. And I'm still not kind of out of the woods with everything that's going on. And I, I don't know 100% what the root cause is. This past January, I presented with Raynauds, and I'll try. YouTube is new for me, so I'm just learning how to edit these things, but I'll try and put a picture of what my hands look like. It's really scary. And I continue to have burning legs, and I did seek out a new naturopath who specializes in women's hormones, and he has put me on some supplements, methylcobalamin, which is like the highest form of vitamin B12. I'm on Adrenal Pro because he suspected that I have that I'm gluten intolerant now, that I have adrenal fatigue, and that there was something else. Anyways, he put me on Adrenal Pro, which has got like adaptogens in it, and it's herbal, and I really started to feel good taking that. And then Fem Matrix, which is another supplement for to kind of minimize the hot flushing and night sweats, so you can function. Like, I'd literally wash my hair, style it, and then the next day would have to wash it again because I was sweating so bad that my hair would look like greased out. It's just so crazy. And I vowed after that, you know what, menopause is not taboo. I mean, that used to be the way it was in the day, right? Our moms or grandmas didn't talk about it. It was hush hush. But I feel like we're all women. We're all going to get there at some point. And for the women who are getting there way before their time, we need an outlet. We need to create a community so that there's support. Like, I had so many questions. I searched the shit out of YouTube looking for somebody my age who would just go detailed into their symptoms, and there were very limited videos that I could find. So I speak about it a lot, especially on my Instagram page, and I did write some blogs during my journey. I've not written a blog in a long time, actually, because that's another part of the symptoms. I felt like, I really struggled with brain fog, and I'm a published author, so at the same time that I was just nearing my year post-menopause, I was asked to co-author a book, which was called Spiritual Leaders. And it's compiled with 50 authors who tell all kinds of stories in there. It's an awesome book, really, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. But I was doing that, I was having a surgery, and I was just nearing menopause. And then I did a juice cleanse, I went vegan, all in the name of trying to heal myself, and I went chemical free. I threw out all of my products. When you're in a place of desperation, you'll almost do anything. So now was referred to rheumatology after the Raynauds, and I went and saw her this past summer, and she asked me for my history, and I never know what to say when they ask me, like, what are your symptoms? Like, what's the story? And I'm like, do you want the whole story? Like, where does one start? Do I go back to where I had TMJ and I have swallowing issues? Is it all interconnected? Do you need to know all of those parts so that anybody could tell me what the frig is going on? So this time I thought, you know what? I've been sent to so many doctors. Like, I've left some parts out because this is why I didn't want to do the video. I knew that was going to happen. I was also sent to a major hospital for cancer testing, genetic testing, the BRCA genetic testing. In the meantime of all of this. Anyways, so this rheumatologist, I tell her the story, and she gets up and says, okay, sit over here. And she's feeling for my radial pulses. And I don't know what she's doing, but she can't find it. So she has my arm straight out like this, and then tells me to like turn my head, and then she puts my arm back, and then she comes to this one, she goes back to this one, and I'm like, is everything okay? And she's like, I can't find your radial pulse. And I'm like, well, I'm alive because I'm sitting here talking to you. Like, what does that mean? And she's like, we need to go and run some tests. And she's putting this like little like microscope looking at my finger beds. So she said she books me the very next day for a upper extremity Doppler ultrasound. So they put like a blood pressure cuff here, one here, here, here. They ultrasound like down your carotid artery, under your pit, down your side. And then they have you move your arms in all these positions. And so the technician says to me, that test was booked for the very next day. So the technician says to me, have you had your heart checked? And I was like, no, why? And she's like, when you have your arms back like this, like you flatline. And I was like, what do you mean I flatline? And so long story short, I leave that test, and like not 2 weeks, maybe 10 days later, a vascular surgeon contacts me and their office, and they want to book me in. So I'm like, I'm a little bit concerned as to why a vascular surgeon is trying to book me in for an appointment when I haven't even got my own results back yet. Like, what's going on? And so the secretary says, oh, I'm sure rheumatology is going to be calling you shortly, but we have this time for you, which was just in July. So anyways, I go back to rheumatology. They called me like literally an hour later. So the vascular surgeon's office just got to me before they did. They called me in and they said, listen, we think that you have thoracic outlet syndrome, which is very rare. And for those that don't know, it is compression in the brachial plexus. So you can have three types: neurogenic, arterial, or venous, vascular. And surgery for something like that is kind of major. Some people have cervical ribs. I'm not sure if I have those yet, which is almost like little extra ribs that they'll remove. If you don't have them, they end up taking out your first rib to kind of create space so that your veins, nerves, and all of that. So I get tingling in my hands. They feel dead and weak. I've been in this whole time for the last year, I've been seeing my doctor. I had a work-related injury last year, and then several since then, and have been in my doctor's care since then. And finally in June, I said, like, I can't take it. Like, my body is not healing. And she wrote me off work, and then all of this transpired. So I went back and saw the vascular surgeon. He ran some tests there again, and then referred me to one of our major hospitals here, just about 45 minutes outside my town, to see a major vascular surgeon who specializes in thoracic outlet. So I don't go and see him till next month. So it's been a long time waiting. And this has been the journey of my life. Like, I literally go from one doctor where they're diagnosing this to the next doctor who diagnoses this to the next doctor and the next doctor. It just seems never ending. Like, honestly, what do I have and why? And I've yet to find that. So I know this video is running very long, and I didn't want to do that, and this is why I didn't post the video or actually make the video, because I knew, like, this has been such a long journey and I'm still not on the outside of it. But if you keep on watching, subscribe, because I have some pretty cool videos. Mara and I do another juice cleanse, and we actually don't purchase the juices this time. We show you how to make them so you can do them at home, and why they're so super important. And I'm going to continue to vlog my story from here on out, and give you an inside look into what it looks like at my level. And what early menopause is like, and all these doctor's appointments I'm going to, and all these prescriptions I'm not taking, because I believe that there is more natural ways. So with that, Mar's not here, so I'll say, I'm Char, and I'm Mar. Stay tuned. See you soon. Thanks for watching.
On back and relax. Kick your pretty feet up on my dash.